Hi Raquel, this is Fancy, and I'm looking at your notes. You haven't used the module before, you're finding it challenging. Your strategy is points of emphasis, and you say you're concerned that it looks more like an arrow. But for me, it looks more like visual pathways, except for this kind of area here. It's a little bit ill-defined, and maybe this area here. So I'm not really seeing points of emphasis. Your pathways would be too big to kind of gradate across if that's what you're trying to do. So what I've been telling people, how I would approach the strategy is I would approach it like you've approached every other problem, whether you were building visual pathways or creating points of emphasis. I would use, the palettes, the palette that you created to create visual pathways and make sure that every part of the composition is part of a visual pathway, and visual pathways that don't twist and turn too much. We want the viewer to be able to follow, and I would gradate within the pathway. I'd gradate from one perceptual opposite to another, or I would gradate from one perceptual opposite to the chromatic grays in or near the middle. Or from the other perceptual opposite in or near the middle, so to the chromatic grays. And I would get the composition balanced in terms of the pathways and, get them gradating smoothly and make sure that I had good continuation so as to help the viewer to follow the paths. And then I would go in and start to kind of break apart the composition as a whole with large areas of water. So that's the one or two, two or maybe three if you have a scale with a particularly large amount of steps. So two for sure, maybe three chromatic grays that are in or near the middle. And I would start to build large areas of water and then have them gradate to fire. So you want to make sure this fire becomes, this area of fire where you have small amounts of the full strength perceptual opposites next to each other. Those become the areas that should be strategically focused or strategically placed within the composition to lead the eye around. And then these visual pathways will seem to kind of come into and out of focus depending on whether the values are made of fire or they're made out of water, so those middle grays. If you haven't had a chance already, you should take a look at some of the other posts. And as always, you can review this past student work in the assignment section of the Moodle. I look forward to seeing what you do.